UFC 296 is this Saturday. I'm going to give you all my picks, my vibes, my action, just some of my thoughts as well. You know, we're just going to get straight into it. First fight of the night. These fights actually might have changed in order. I got all my information on Sunday, so I listed the fights as they appeared on DraftKings. Some of the fights might have been switched around. If you're confused, that is why. First fight of the night. Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikhov. Muslim Salikhov. Now, this is tough. When I first saw this fight, this matchup, and the odds, Randy Brown is a huge favorite, and there's a lot of sense behind that. He should be the huge favorite. But I think this is possibly a Vegas trap. In all seriousness, I think on paper, right, not even on paper, in real life, in terms of physical abilities, Randy Brown has every advantage. Randy Brown is much younger. Randy Brown is much taller. Randy Brown is much longer. You know, those are the big three, really, in terms of physical advantages. Muslim Salikhov, he's 39 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, matched up against Randy Brown at his 33 years young. Whoa, 33 years young. 6'2" height, and a 78-inch reach, long as hell, man. That's an 8-inch reach advantage over someone that you're mainly going to be striking. They're going to have to come to you, and the dude is much older. It's very terrifying, and that's, I feel like what most people are going to see, at least the first time they look at this matchup. When you dig a little deeper, especially if you've seen, I've seen Muslim Salikhov fight before. I really wasn't that familiar with him. I had to rewatch a lot of his fights. Randy Brown, I've seen fight multiple times. I believe he trains out in Queens. I'm from New York City, so I usually will support people who train at least out of New York City. If they are from New York City, I will literally bet blindly on them, emotionally, like just pure degeneracy. But that and fighters from Wilmington. But fighters from Wilmington have been letting me the fuck down. I don't know what's in the water out there. You guys have been tweaking. Wilmington, North Carolina. Step it up. Fucking Wilmingwood, North Kakalaki. We need wins, bro. We need wins. I digress. Randy Brown starts out his fights trying to set his game plan up completely. He starts out aggressive. He wants to touch his opponent. He wants to dance around his opponent. Now the dancing part gets tricky because I think in Randy Brown's mind, he's some kind of like Neo fucking Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz, like kind of Weaver head movement level. Like, that is not the case, my brother. Dudes snipe you and catch you bad. Which brings me to my next point. Muslim Salikhov specifically uses those techniques that I think are perfect. They are ripe for catching Randy Brown. I'm talking spinning back kicks, spinning wheel kicks, sneaky little blitz combinations with the hands, all that stuff. I think about those techniques used against someone like Randy Brown, who in his fight against Jack Della Maddalena, I think this is where his kind of style and weaknesses show the strongest. You know, he started out trying to impose his will on JDM. Hate using JDM. I don't know what the obsession with acronyms for people's names in mixed martial arts is, but he tried to put his game plan. He really tried to dominate JDM on the feet, at least, you know, just in terms of reach, in terms of who's initiating in the beginning. And what does it end up in? Randy Brown tries to dance around. He gets one shot. He literally gets sniped. Starts dancing like Michael Jackson, and he gets tapped. And that's not the only time this has happened, for real. People catch Randy Brown. They catch him lacking. They catch him sleeping. Like, I don't know what it is. And sometimes Randy Brown does it to himself. I think that's always something that you have to worry about when your defensive style is based or centered around head movement and trying to be elusive. There's a chance that you might run into a shot and put yourself out bad, which I think is what happened with the Jack Della Maddalena fight. He tried to swerve. He ran off into like a looping like hook or some shit, if I remember correctly, and started doing TikTok dances type shit. Going back to the Muslim Salikhov matchup, Muslim Salikhov is a major underdog, and that's what I like too. I think Muslim Salikhov has the potential to upset this right off the bat, and that's why I'm going with Muslim Salikhov. I changed my initial, before I really was set in my picks, I was like, all right, Randy Brown is probably going to take this one. And honestly, based on just percentages, like, the UFC loves to put up those little vibe killer fucking spooky hour stats, like, oh, fighters that are 6 years younger win 65% of the times. Oh, 8-inch reach advantage wins 72% of the time, or some shit like that. Like, and they always, it's just crazy shit. So things like that, I think they do play, they do influence fights, obviously. Sometimes they do not influence fights whatsoever, but I think this might influence the fight. It's very tough. If you want to be safe, I would say not to bet on Randy Brown. If you want to be safe, you shouldn't be betting anything at all. Never bet, brother. Never bet, never pay for pay-per-view, brother, in the wise words of Khabib. However, being a degen and seeing potential in Muslim Salikhov's game, in his bag, I'm going with Muslim Salikhov. I'm going with Muslim Salikhov. And really, I think the only way that he does win is by KO, TKO, maybe sub, too. But I think he finishes Randy Brown. That's what I'm trying to get at. I think he finishes Randy Brown. I don't think it's a decision. I don't think it's a close fight. I think he finishes him. Maybe Randy Brown puts him in some trouble right off rip because, like I said, Randy Brown likes to start out aggressive. But his chin is suspect, man. What can we say? Like, we've seen Randy Brown get touched. It's not like he can't. And the way Randy Brown acts mid-fight when he weaves or eludes one strike is like he's never gotten cracked bad. And you need confidence, but I mean, come on now. I think the sneaky power and just the deep bag, literally the deep bag of techniques that Muslim Salikhov has in terms of striking techniques, I think that's going to come out. I'm hoping it comes out. Moving on, another fight that is going to be out of order because I know that this fight is now billed much later in the card. Cody Garbrandt, Cody No Love versus Cody Hanging with the Boys versus Brian Kelleher. Again, I think this entire card is going to be very good as a spectator. They're going to be great fights. I think gambling is one of those. It's spooky. This is one of those Arman Sarukian versus Beneil Dariush cards. Like, it's, you might get scared, bro. I think a lot of dogs are coming out tonight. The dog, it's the night of the dog, for real. Saturday night, night of the dog. Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. Cody Garbrandt, the major favorite, which actually I do not like. I don't mind him being the favorite. The last I checked, he was over -200 favorite. I think that's a little wild. I think what really scares me about this fight is who is going to finish the other dude first. I don't think this fight goes the distance. Brian Kelleher seems to have like the opposite like problem that Cody has. Like, he gets subbed crazy, but that's not as big of a problem as people laying you the fuck out like Cody has. Like, unfortunately, and I love Cody, man. Like, I love Cody's style. I love the way he fights. A lot of people might remember the fact that he smoked Dominic Cruz, but you might not even realize on that night, Cody Garbrandt was the best bantamweight in the world, in the whole world. Like, and you just have to wonder, is that guy still there? Is he still deep inside? Will he come out? Are we going to see him on Saturday? Maybe. That's the thing. Maybe we see him on Saturday. But Cody's gotten 4 losses by KO now, man. And some of them were consecutive. Like, they were tough losses too. Fights where he was winning and then tried to tank and slug it out and then got out toughed and just got put down. Like, for me, he's a little hard to bet on now. He's inconsistent in the worst way. I think Cody should win this fight, honestly. I think he should win this fight on paper. But again, it's that chin. Like, we don't know. Like, I believe his last opponent's name was Trevin Jones. Trevin Jones was having a lot of trouble, right? His coach told him, I think, in the last round, or maybe second to last round, you need to land 3 to 4 punches on his chin, and we're good, basically. He said something like that, and that is very true. Trevin Jones went on to literally land 1 punch on Cody's chin, and you could see it. You could see Cody did not like it at all, and it affected him. It really affected him. what I'm terrified of is that Brian Kelleher obviously knows this. Like, you know, whoever he's fighting probably knows this. Like, you know, you have to assume that they know this. Now, you just have to wonder, is everybody that Cody faces from here on out going to be content with biting down on their mouthpiece and trying to lay him the fuck out before they get laid out themselves? And that might sound like a brutal, simpleton way of fighting, game plan, but it might be effective against Cody for real. It really might get effective. It really might be effective, excuse me. Brian Kelleher is much older now. Cody's still got some youth. He's got some size on Brian Kelleher as well. He's not like the worst fighter. This really hinges on Cody, honestly, because Cody also tweaks. He's susceptible to just tweaking out, like doing his own thing. I'm picking Cody Garbrandt to win, honestly. I was going to pick Brian Kelleher, actually, and a lot of it was based on that idea of if someone knows that their opponent's chin is weak, do you gamble on your own chin? Do you gamble and push forward and just try to crack? But I just believe in Cody, man. I believe in Cody. Cody has great head movement until he gets caught. Way better than fucking Randy Brown, at least. And Brian Kelleher throws these wide, teensy sloppy hooks, you know, and I think those are Cody's best, that's Cody's bread and butter of weaving until he gets fucking touched by one. And if he gets touched by one on the chin, we don't know. We don't know what could happen. I'm going with Cody Garbrandt. Originally, I picked Brian Kelleher, but I'm going with Cody Garbrandt as the favorite. I'm not going to have any action on that. If I were to put action on that, I would probably take a look at the not going the distance odds for someone getting finished, something like that. Okay, moving on. We have ranked number 14 in the world, Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. Cody Durden I've seen fight a couple times. Tagir I've also seen fight a couple times. Tagir has good wins, his ground game. He's a solid fighter. The only, I guess, weakness that people might have or suspect is in his hands. He has no wins by KO, TKO. Not to say his hands are just pillow or they're just there. You know, obviously man can work with his hands. But just as a trend, you know, looking back, hasn't caught anyone with him. It makes sense that Tagir is the favorite. I think Cody Durden, though, has a wee bit more experience, just in general. Cody has a draw, which I like, actually. I kind of like when dudes have draws because that means that they were in, like, a tough fight, you know. Or maybe not tough, you know. The judges could have been tweaking, could have been freaking it, but they were in a long fight, at least. They know what it means to dig deep, to have a long, drawn-out fight. I can live with that. The only problem, Cody has been subbed twice. Tagir he's the Subway Surfer type shit. So fucking corny. But Tagir does sub people. He has a great submission win over Alan Nascimento, who's been pretty brawly, been bugging out. I think that ultimately what this comes down to is I think Cody's hands are going to make the difference. A lot of people say they don't like Cody's striking. I like Cody's striking, and I think it's going to make him some money in this fight. And we are backing Cody Durden. I'm picking Cody Durden, and we're going to have action on Cody Durden. I don't think he's the worst dog to back, really. I think he's a better dog to back than fucking Brian Kelleher. But the Brian Kelleher thing, again, spooky. We don't know. But I think Muslim Salikhov is a better dog to back than Cody Durden. People might think I'm a tweaker because of that, so who knows. Coming up next, we got a spooky fight. This is spooky vibes, okay? I'm gonna come out with a video kind of breaking down the lingo and stuff as well that I use. Hopefully you guys get into it. Okay, number 4, fourth fight of the night. We have Martin Boudet versus Shamil Gaziev. Heavyweights, the big boys. The tubby lads. Not too tubby. Shamil's picture is very deceptive. He's not that tubby. Physically, this is pretty close actually. If anything, I think there's kind of a, not weird reasoning behind it, but you just have to follow along with me. So Shamil Gaziev is 33 years old. He's 6'4", has a 78.5-inch reach. Matched up against Martin Buday, is 6'4" in height, 77-inch reach, and 32 years of age. So I think, even though that's a tiny little reach advantage, it obviously still matters a little bit. Martin Buday, I think, actually is better than people think he is. I don't think he's amazing, but I think he's better than people are giving him credit for, especially against a guy like Shamil. And I think Shamil, people are giving Shamil too much credit, really. Like, Shamil's making his debut. He has a lot of amateur experience. He's on a 13-fight win streak, a lot of those coming by way of KO, TKO. You know, obviously he's a big guy. He has power. Martin Buday, though, he is 4-0 in the UFC, 12-win streak, and he's active. He's actively fighting dudes. He's fighting dudes in the UFC. Take it as you will. I don't look too much into this kind of stuff, but I thought it was just interesting. You know, something told me to look it up. So Martin Buday's combined UFC opponents have a record of 58, 22, and 1. So whatever that means to you, hey, that's fine. I'm praying that Martin Buday has worked on his cardio a bit, because I think Martin Buday actually has an okay chin. And what I don't see a lot of people talk about is, it might be sloppy, but Martin Buday moves his head. He moves his head off the center line sometimes. You know, he knows to move his head. He knows sometimes when to blitz, when to attack. He's had tough fights, you know. I don't know if Shamil has maybe faced anyone like Martin Buday for real. Like, not in terms of size. I mean, in terms of size and skill. Now, the spooky part of this is they're both heavyweights. Literally, it's possible that within the first 30 seconds, Shamil snipes him, one-shots him, puts him down. Something crazy like that. Shamil's takedown defense might be non-existent. It might be. Like, it might exist. It might be non-existent, though. Either guy can win this fight. This is terrifying. I'm picking Martin Buday. Not only am I picking Martin Buday, I'm actually going to have a little action on Martin Buday as well, but I'm fucking terrified. I'm so terrified. You really, with the heavyweights, you never know. Like, the odds are always closer than they appear. And sometimes in the most oxymoron, like, non sequitur sense, like, they're much farther. Like, I don't think this is one of those cases, but I think these fights are this fight is very close. I think either dude can win this fight decisively. I don't think it's going to be a decision. If it does go to decision, I really like Martin Buday, actually. I think if Martin Buday can just survive the first round, he can take the power, take some of that energy away from Shamil. I think he walks away with it, through whatever means he does. But really, you have to remind yourself that this is a heavyweight fight. Either dude can win instantly, and it could be dog shit. It could just straight up be dog shit. So, there we go, Martin Buday. Next, we have Andre Touchy-Feely, one of the best nicknames, versus Lucas Almeida, right? Lucas Almeida, for some reason, is a dude that I was having major deja vu about. For some reason, I feel like I've heard of him or, like, seen him in the UFC. I guess not, though. Actually, first, let's pump the brakes. Let's go back to Andre Feely for a second. Andre Feely is 5'11", 74-inch reach, and 33 years young. He has experience. I think if you look at his record, you might get scared at the amount of losses that he's received. But if you look at who gave him those losses, it makes a lot of sense. They were good dudes who gave him those losses, you know. 7 wins by decision in the UFC. He's no stranger to going the distance, no stranger to having a tough, you know, drawn-out fight, staying in there. I'm going to get back to that on the other side for Lucas Almeida in a moment. He himself, as in Andre Feely, I've actually watched some of his most recent fights. He really hasn't looked the worst. He's looked good, maybe even. Like, granted, I forget his name. Wee lad, little lad. Nathaniel Wood dropped the fuck out of him. I won't say dropped the fuck out of him, but he dropped him. He hurt him. But Andre Feely recovered. He survived. He really recovered and survived, like, very strongly. I really don't think Andre Feely's that bad, man. And, you know, again, I've actually had a couple little flip-flops on this card. I was going with Andre Fili for a minute, but when I was looking at Lucas Almeida's fight against Trezano, started having my mind swap around. Ultimately, I think he really has looked okay. Team Alpha Males has actually been doing pretty good, like recently with all of their fighters. I think Andre has what it takes to win this fight by decision, by finish. Now, the problem that I have with him is, will he get finished? You know, I hear a lot of people online saying, oh, Lucas Almeida's striking doesn't look like that, blah, 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 blah. Lucas Almeida fights like he's fucking starving. Like he's a wild animal, okay? Like, that's dangerous. You gotta be worried about those dudes. He's throwing nasty hooks and he's trying to put you the fuck away. Like, I will say, though, he really has not been tested. He doesn't have that much experience, especially in the UFC. He's 5'11", 71-inch reach compared to Andre Fili's 74-inch reach, and 1 year younger at 32 years old. I think he's a really good dog. Another thing to note here is that he's only seen one decision. He's only seen one decision, so maybe a little bit into the second round, shit starts getting real spooky, and it makes sense, but we obviously never want that to happen. 9 wins by KO, TKO, and he has hands. I don't know why people are sleeping on that shit, actually. He fights hungry as hell, like I said, and he has a decent chin. Trezano rocked him bad. Trezano almost finished him, but he survived. He survived and he came back and put him out brutally, which I like. I love that. I love that. You gotta dig deep. Dig deep. Literally, bring the dog out of you, but God damn, man. Am I gonna, like, flip-flop and get all these picks wrong? I literally wrote, I think Andre has what it takes to win if he doesn't get KO'd/TKO'd. Now, how likely is it that he gets KO'd/TKO'd? I'm going with Lucas Almeida. Fuck it. Night of the dog. Like I said, it's the night of the dog. If it's going to be the night of the dog, you got to go with the dogs. For all the dogs, man. So we're going with Lucas Almeida on that one. I think Lucas Almeida gets it done actually by KO TKO, for real. I think he catches him with those mean hooks. He throws a couple of hooks at a time too. I think he gets it done. But maybe he gets exposed. Really, he might get exposed bad, like against Andre Fili. I think Andre Fili has that exposing potential, you know? Like, if you really aren't who you say you are, or who you think you are, he'll tell you. He's going to show you, actually. But we're going Lucas Almeida. This is going to be a tough fight. I am picking Lucas Almeida, and I'm going to have action on Lucas Almeida, though. I don't give a flying fuck. Moving on, another terrifying one, but a fight that I'm very interested in watching. We have rank number 14, Alonzo Atomic Menifield, versus rank number 15, Dustin Jacoby. Now, Dustin Jacoby is nice. He has good hands. He has good, clean, crisp technique. They both have the same amount of KOs and TKOs, if you can believe that. You might think Alonzo's been starching dudes, which he has, but they both also have a draw, which is good, actually. It was wonderful for this man, Alonzo. I forget who it was against that, who gave him the draw, but I bet on that fight too, and I bet on Alonzo, and I was so tight, but, because I think actually, maybe Alonzo won. I don't remember who it was even against. I just think I remember that. I just feel that. It feels that way. But I love Alonzo at plus 200, man, because he has that fucking power. Like, I think... Also, a little physical breakdown starting out with Alonzo. 6 feet tall, 76-inch reach, which is nice and tasty. A deceptive 35 years old. He does not look 35, but he is 35. Dustin Jacoby with a little bit of height, 6'3", same reach at 76 inches, and he is... I wrote 2 things here, but I think he's 35. I think he's 35 years old as well. So, no, you know, height is the only difference here. I do think striking technique is also a difference here, but there's also a massive power difference. Alonso has that crazy power. Not only does he have the crazy power, people might doubt his cardio because for a long time, like, you know, he really didn't have the opportunity to even show people that he could fight like that, or he could maintain fighting over an extended period of time. But he's been in crazy and chaotic fights, you know, and he's come out on top. He has experience. I also think, like, in the same sense that Alonzo Menafield is deceptively old, he's deceptively good. I think he is deceptively good. Dustin Jacoby, however, I think is a better striker in terms of skill. I think they've fought similar levels of competition. If anything, maybe Dustin has fought less. Like, less good comp. If that's the case. Like, it's pretty equal, I think. Dustin Jacoby has a lot of KO and TKO wins in general, though, actually. That is kind of terrifying. And he also has taken a shit ton. If you look up, like, his Tapology or something, you can see he has a shit ton of kickboxing fights. Man got KO'd by Alex Pereira, though. Take that what you will. I think, ultimately, I like Alonzo. I've been backing Alonzo. I've been watching Alonzo's fights. Dustin Jacoby, I know, is, like, on a little bit of a resurgence now, but, I think if Dustin Jacoby doesn't put together an almighty combination that finishes Alonzo Menafield, I think Alonzo Menafield maybe catches him, puts him out. I'm going with Alonzo as a big underdog, actually, in this fight. Again, I think Alonzo shouldn't be that big of an underdog because of his power, but maybe... we'll see. I'm going with Alonzo. We'll see. If you're too spooked to pick Alonzo for that, and also too spooked to pick against Alonzo, you might want to hit the little not going the distance on that fight as well. I haven't checked the odds on it at all, but it's actually probably a heavy favorite. This man Alonzo really doesn't go to decision, but I digress. Next fight. Ranked number 5 woman, Irene Aldana versus Carol Rosa. Little physical matchup starting with Carol Rosa. She is also ranked number 9 in the world, by the way. She stands at 5 feet 5 inches tall, 67-inch reach, and she is 28 years young. Not that much older than me. Irene Aldana, like I said, ranked number 5 in the world, standing at a tall 5'9", 69-inch reach, and a decent 35 years of age. You know, that's a 7-year gap. That's when the UFC is going to show you those spooky hour stats like, oh, shit. Really what this comes down to is Carol Rosa has never, like, her finishing abilities are questionable. Her endurance and, like, decision-winning abilities in that sense are not. She's much younger, right? However, Irene Aldana actually does have TKO and KO wins in the UFC. She's finished girls before. She has 3 in the UFC and 8 fucking total in her career. However, the spooky thing is, and then you start understanding why they make these kinds of matchups, she has 5 losses by decision. So it's like, if she doesn't finish Carol Rosa, she loses. Which is, it's almost like some female Alonzo Menafield type shit going on with this one. I think on paper, Irene Aldana wins. I'm picking Irene Aldana. I'm not going to have any action on that shit because ultimately, with women's MMA, you don't know until the fight is actually going on. You really don't. You really don't. That is to say nothing of the skill level of these women fighting. It's just you really have no idea. The odds, like, you have no idea of, like, how the fight's going to play out until the fight actually happens. And people might say, yeah, obviously, it's a fight. That goes with all fights. But no. If you've watched fights enough, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, moving up. We have ranked number 12 in the world, Casey O'Neill versus unranked Ariana Lipski. Right. I've seen both of these chicks fight. I've seen Ariana Lipski, I think more, actually, surprisingly. Casey O'Neill, I haven't really watched that much of. Physically, Casey O'Neill stands at 5'6", 69-inch reach, 26 years young, teensy bit older than me. Ariana Lipski chilling at 5'6" as well, 67-inch reach, 2 inch is shorter in that regard, and 29 years, so only a tiny bit older. Very young still. Casey O'Neill does have finishes. She has KOs and TKOs in the UFC. She also has a really good win over, I want to say Antonia. I might be wrong, but Valentina Shevchenko's sister, the Shevchenko sister, she has a win over her. She has an okay record. She has good experience. They're both active fighters. You know, they fight. That's not really going to, I think, play a part in that. Casey O'Neill does have good amateur experience as well. Also, I just, again, like something told me to do it, I added up their opponents' combined records. So Casey O'Neill's, her opponents' combined records are 65 wins, 36 losses, and 1 draw. Now, the interesting thing is, I think on paper, Casey O'Neill wins. But Ariana Lipski's combined UFC opponents have had a record of 86, 25, and 3. So whatever that means to you, again, whatever that means to you, that's what it means to you. Another notable difference is that while Casey O'Neill beat the Shevchenko sister, Ariana Lipski got finished by her. She actually got put away by her. MMA math does not work always, so, you know, Ariana Lipski maybe comes out, fucking spinning wheel kick, knocks out Casey O'Neill, but who knows. I'm also thinking in the back of my mind this might be a setup. It might be a setup. They might be trying to give Casey O'Neill another little finish, another little KO, TKO finish. Ariana Lipski, I think, has more experience. The biggest spooky part, too, is that she has 4 career losses by KO, TKO. 3 of those have come in the UFC. Horrifying. You gotta get scared. They're both young, man. They're both young. I just think that the finishing ability, just the whole vibe is more on Casey O'Neill's side. I'm picking Casey O'Neill, no action. We move on. Again, also one last little thing to note, Casey O'Neill is ranked. Sometimes that means nothing, but she is ranked, so. Moving on. Josh Emmett versus Thug Nasty, Bryce Mitchell. I love Thug Nasty. I love fucking Bryce Mitchell. I used to fuck with Josh Emmett. Unfortunately, it's kind of over for him. I think that might have been, that was extremely decisive. The way I said it was kind of cold. The elephant in the room is the fact that Josh Emmett got the dog shit beaten out of him by Ilya Taporia. Like the dog shit beaten out of him. Bryce Mitchell, on the opposite side of the same coin, got brutally finished. Josh Emmett actually didn't even get finished, but he got knocked down a shit ton. He got finished like multiple times in that fight. But Bryce Mitchell actually got finished brutally by Ilya. Ilya subbed him. Nasty work. But it was a good fight. I don't think he was as offensive. I think Bryce Mitchell had a better fight against Ilya than Josh Emmett. I'm hearing some whispers about Josh Emmett KOing Bryce Mitchell. And I want to say, that's not impossible. I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm going with Bryce Mitchell, man. Bryce Mitchell got monster cardio. He is a monster. He's a scrapper. He's got that dog in him. He has heart. He has a decent chin. You know, Ilya was hitting him, and he was with it to stand there and trade. He wasn't getting, like, sent to the canvas every fucking second, every other engagement. Like, that wasn't happening. Much younger than Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett, I actually don't know how old he is. If I had to guess, he's, like, approximately, like, fucking 40. Like, you know, like, he looks around there. Josh Emmett does have a decent chin. We saw that. I think there's a little asterisk near that decent chin is how much did Ilya take from you with that shit? Because Ilya was putting the beating down on him. Has some insanely mean hooks, you know. Obviously, everyone who knows Josh Emmett knows that. I think Bryce Mitchell is just the more well-rounded fighter. I think people say Bryce Mitchell's striking is dog shit. I think for his style, it's going to work. I think for that scrappy, almost sloppy in a sense, just rough style, it works. Hopefully, Bryce got a lot better, but we're picking Bryce, you know, calmly. Nice little short pick, short little breakdown. I just think Bryce takes it. Again, physically, I think the advantages are on Bryce Mitchell's side as well. So, you know, I think Bryce Mitchell walks away with that. Bryce Mitchell is my pick. I might have action on him. You're going to have to check the description. Moving on. And I knew I should have filmed this video earlier because as of right now, this fight no longer exists. We have ranked number 8, Vicente Luque. As I used to call him, as many people still call him Vincente Luque. No. Vicente Luque versus Ian Gary. Ian Machado Gary. My bad. Ian Machado Gary. I'm sorry, Ian. All memes aside, I'm really not going to be memeing too much about Ian Gary. I will talk a little bit about my thought process behind these picks. I'm still going to include this pick even though the fight is off. A rational human being that doesn't watch fights is going to pick Ian Gary. A rational human being that watches fights occasionally is going to pick Ian Gary, and a lot of people that watch fights religiously are still picking Ian Gary, and it's for good reason. Ian Gary is him. He is nice, right? Like, I'm actually going to say he's not him, but he's nice. He's legitimately nice. He's talented, and he works hard. You can see him getting better in his fights. He's actually nice. There's a gaping hole, though, that people seem to have mistaken, where this man, I actually, on the same pad, I'd filmed basically a little practice video with last week's events, right? Which was Fight Night Song versus Gutierrez, right? So I had, if we go back, K9 Song versus Kevin Gisay, right? I picked Kevin Gisay to win that, but one thing that I was worried about, though, is K9 Song slapped hot fire out of Ian Gary's mouth, sat him down on his ass. He knocked the dog, that's what I wrote, he knocked the dog piss out of Ian Gary. He has some power, it's just that he gets touched, you know, and he got put away. I don't think we should forget that, though. That Ian Gary got touched. That Ian Gary got fucking sat down for a moment. Because I think if that's... Obviously, it could happen to anyone. But I think if that's happening and you're getting dropped like that, Vicente Luque is the guy to put you away, to make sure you don't get back up. For real. He is the definition of a heavy-handed man. Yeah, Vicente Luque with 8 wins by KO, TKO, 5 by sub. In the UFC alone, he is a finisher. He tries to finish dudes. I was going to say, if Vicente Luque does not finish Ian Gary on the feet, which I do think is actually the lesser likely, like, the less likely event happening, he does have a nasty little Darce. I was praying, like, yo, please, God, Vicente Luque by Darce choke that leaves Ian Gary twitching. Just for the heart of it. I think if you asked a lot of people before, like, maybe we'll say, like, last Sunday or even, like, earlier than that, people would, a lot more people were going for Ian Gary. I was agreeing with a lot of people when they were saying that all of this background noise, so to speak, is going to have an effect on Ian Gary. I think it's going to have an effect on Ian Gary. I think it had an effect on Ian Gary. I know that a UFC doctor diagnosed him with pneumonia or whatever it was, but I do think that got in his head a little bit. And I think it would have been notable in the fight. You know, yeah, that's what I wrote about Ian Gary. He can be touched. It's not like he doesn't get touched. People touch him. Like, he had phenomenal performances against Magny and Jesus, I'm misremembering who he fought right before that. But he's had good finishes, or it was K9 Song, but he's had good finishes. You know, it's tough. It's very tough. It's very tough. Obviously, that fight isn't going down anymore. First, I picked Ian Gary. I was going to pick Vicente Luque, and I was going to have a little action on that. a little action on that. Because I actually think Vicente Luque, not only does Vicente Luque have the skills to actually get that fight done, I think it's all the background noise too. I think that was going to play a big, big part of it as well. So, moving on to a fight that actually still exists. Tony Ferguson, El Cucuy, the Boogeyman, versus Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Tony Ferguson, a massive underdog in this fight for good reason. Break down some of the physical, the vital matchups. So Tony stands at 5'11", matched up against Paddy's 5'10". Tony has a 76-inch reach, matched up against Paddy's 73. Tony is at a ripe 39 years old against Paddy's 28. God damn, man. You know, physically, I think that little reach advantage doesn't really, the reach and height isn't as big of an advantage as the age gap. Really, that's a massive age gap. Like, you know, usually you see the UFC start putting in the fucking vibe killer spooky stats around 6 years of age. A 6-year gap. Then they'll be like the younger fighter, blah, 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 gets murked. Or wins, wins like whatever, however many percentage of the time. At 11 years, it's probably closer. It's probably like around like 75% or higher, like for the winning rate of the younger fighter. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I would just guess. Paddy's coming off a controversial victory where people, you know, obviously thought he lost the fight. I think looking back on it, we can admit that it was it's better for Paddy in a strange sense, because Paddy got hurt during that fight, showed a bit more toughness than I think people saw on the surface. Another big thing about Paddy is he's confident. That really can change the whole course of your career, especially in the fight game. It's just straight up having confidence. He is a grappling threat. Unfortunately, he should and probably will be Tony. Like, that's just the way this cookie crumbles. I don't think you can pick Tony Ferguson outside of just saying, like, oh, I just think Tony's going to win. Like, you know, like, I just think he's going to win. Not like he should win. Like, I think he's going to win. Like, I think that's the difference between, like, you know, like, just straight, like, picking, like, you know, like, I just pick him to win, or actually backing someone. Like, there's reasons why Paddy should win. Not as many reasons to why Tony should win. Like, I think it comes down to that. In terms of picks, I'm going to have to go with Paddy. I'm not going to have any action on this. Tony might shock everyone, though. The thing is, he was once, and still is in a sense, a legendary fighter. He is just now a shadow of that legendary fighter. He's had troubles in his personal life, like, aside from fighting, like, that stuff definitely plays an impact, you know, with his wife and son. He has taken massive damage, you know, like, really, it's how much more can you take? Can you take anymore? Like, can you even take anymore? Not even how much more can you take. Can you take anymore? He might shock anyone. He's a tweaker. If we're looking at just trends and shit, Tony's on a 6-fight losing streak, man. Like, what more do you guys want to see? Like, with those last 3 consecutive losses being by finish. The first one coming by KO, got fucking, let's not even talk about that. Got KO'd. The last 2, the most recent 2, coming off of sub, bro. One of them to Bobby Green. Like, that was horrible. That was terrifying, man. Like, left unconscious. Literally, like, left for dead. Left for dead on the mat. It's probably over, but who really knows is the last thing I wrote about Tony Ferguson. It's probably over, but who really knows? Who really knows, you know? Who really knows? We got to go with Paddy, though. That's a quick one. Next one is going to be extremely quick as well. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, I might get a little hate. I'm personally not fully sold on Shavkat. That doesn't mean I'm not going to pick him, though. I'm picking Shavkat Rakhmonov to win this fight. Again, all physical advantages are on Shavkat's size, youth, size, reach. All are on his All are on his side. He's undefeated at 17-0. Man is in OVO. He was born in October. Gang shit. He's never went the distance. All of his fights have been finished. And he finishes them both ways. He has 8 wins by TKO KO, 9 wins by sub. Spooky. Massive momentum going into this fight. Stephen Thompson, however, when he is on, he's on. You know, he is a phenomenal striker. He's a legend of the sport. Certified fucking veteran. Much older, though. Again, that 11-year gap is really scary. You know, you got to be worried about that. Like, he has experience fighting skilled and tough competition. Maybe he can pull off the upset. Maybe. I wouldn't be too sure about it. I'm going with Shavkat. Moving on to the co-main event. Alexander, just forget I said that. Pantoja versus Royval. Little physical matchup. Pantoja, 33 years old, 5'5", 68-inch reach. To Brandon's 31 years, 5'9", 70.5-inch reach. So physical advantages obviously for Brandon Royval. However, I think Brandon Royval isn't dog shit. I don't think he's bad. I think he's very good. I think he's overhyped though. You know, I hope that you can make that difference. Like, he's overhyped. Maybe, maybe. You know, obviously, you know, making these picks, it's scary. Maybe. A lot of people, the first thing that they're going to say is that obviously he's lost to Pantoja before. He got rear naked choked by Pantoja in 2021 in round 2. He also got finished by Moreno. My son Brandon Moreno. He had a decent win over Tagir, France, but that shit was early 2020, brother. You know, that shit's tough. I'd say the biggest thing you got to worry about with Brandon Royval is that he's a sneaky fucking striker. And he could maybe scramble out and catch a little sub. Maybe. I think the sneaky striker is really the bigger thing. However, Alexander Pantoja is just fucking a demon, bro. He's an all-around fighter. I think he's ferocious. Like, that's something that a lot of fighters maybe, they have like that killer instinct, but not only does Pantoja have the killer instinct, he's ferocious. Like, he literally just from the start, he's fucking ferocious. Like, he's like an animal. You know, I think kind of not, we can't give the ferocious title to Lucas Almeida. We haven't seen it yet, but I think kind of shades of ferocity. Shades of ferociousness for Lucas Almeida, really just the way he tries to put dudes away with his hook combinations. I like the odds on Pantoja as well as the little favorite, but not a crazy favorite. He's tough as fuck. He's so fucking tough. He was hurt in their first fight against Royval, still finished him. You know, I think he smokes him. One thing you got to be scared about, though, is everyone seems to think that Pantoja's going to smoke him. When that happens, either, yeah, it goes the way everyone's saying it does, or no, it's a good, shocking upset. Just got to get scared. But, yes, I'm taking Alexander Pantoja. That's my pick. There will be action on him as well. I think he's a better fighter. I think he takes it. Moving on, last but not least, the main event of the evening. Rank number 3, Colby Chaos Covington, is challenging the champion, Leon Rocky Edwards. This is a tough fight. I think this is actually a harder prediction than a lot of people are making it seem to be. Colby's taking time off, right? But Colby is a fucking workhorse, bro. He has insane drive. Like, Colby gets it done. He wants to get it done. He also has a chin. You know, Colby got dropped. Well, he didn't get dropped. He took a knee for the first responders. We all know that. And then he got back up, you know? That was tough. People crack him. Even in the Kamaru Usman fight, man, Colby got his fucking jaw broken and still fought. Was still getting cracked. Like, he's tough as hell. Tough as nails, literally. There should be a miles, like, there should be a massive, the biggest gap in terms of skill isn't the striking. Like, Leon's a much better striker than Colby, which he is a better striker than Colby, but the gap between Leon's striking and Colby's striking is not as big as the gap between Colby's grappling and Leon's grappling. I really believe that. Also, Leon Edwards, despite the head kick, he's not like the most prolific finisher. You know, I think a lot of people think that Leon is going to finish Colby. Unfortunately, I'm kind of agreeing with him. I do like Colby as a dog, though. I do like Colby as a dog. Leon Edwards also has never been finished in the UFC. I like Colby as a dog. I think Leon Edwards gets it done. I think Leon Edwards just is more in tune. I think also the rumors, one thing I wanted to talk about too, the rumors of, or I guess I don't even know if we can even call it a rumor. I think it really happened. The rumors, the alleged knockout of Ian Gary at the hands, or I should say foot of, or leg of Leon Edwards. Right? If he's knocking out dudes like Ian Gary in sparring, granted they're sparring, so maybe he really just caught him lovely. I like that. You know, that's big. That's really big. So for that, we are going with Leon Edwards. I think it's funny how kind of as this video has gone on, the more popular fights with more information surrounding them, the quicker it becomes for me. But, you know, that's just what it is. I'm going with Leon. I don't know how he's going to get it done. The thing that scares me, though, is if it goes to decision, then I think Colby's chances increase greatly. Like, I think Colby would be the one to win a decision victory. Maybe not, though. We don't know. But we're going to find out. We are going to find out. Excuse me. We are going to find out. That wraps it up. I'm going to give a little bit of my action. So originally, this was going to be one of my main little degen parlays, a 5-leg parlay, plus 14, 30, 21. Oh, whoa. Plus 14,321 odds, meaning that 10 cash would pay you out $1,442.18. Calmly. This 5-leg party contains Cody Durden, Muslim Salikhov, Martin Boudet, Alonzo Menifield, Vicente Luke. That would have been tasty, I think, honestly. I'm going to do a bit more of the parlay. Usually I would have my parlay already set up and I can just say it, and I would say some of my other parlays. Check in the description. The description's going to have all my action, all the bets that I'm going to place, single parlays, whatever the fuck it's going to be, props, like, doesn't matter. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to put it in there with the amount that I'm betting as well. I'm not rich, so if you, please, don't unit shame. No need to unit shame, brother. No need to unit shame, you know, whether you're in for a penny, in for a pound type shit. Like, but if it does make you a little bit more confident, I will be putting money on the stuff that I'm saying. Granted, not every single fight. That's craziness, but good parlays, good straights, you know? Can't just do straights. Come on now. What are you, not a degenerate? Come on. What are you? You want to win money? All right, jokes aside, though, my degen parlay. This is a degen parlay, please. This is not like my main parlay. I'm not fucking going crazy on this shit. Little 6-legger, 10 cash thrown on for $15.60 and 57 cents, $1,560.57. We got Cody Durden, Muslim Salikhov, Alonzo Menifield, Lucas Almeida, Martin Boudet, and Alexander Pantoja. Now, that's terrifying. Before I kind of get into my last little concluding statement, I'm going to give my picks one last time. So, again, I had fucking Brian Kelleher, or it's going to be flipped. I had Brian Kelleher picked. I'm so worried about that, honestly, man. I know it's like not a bum fight, but like I'm so fucking worried, really. Knowing, if you know about Cody Garbrandt's chin, like, do you yourself, think that you could knock out Cody Garbrandt if you cracked him as hard as you could? He is not going to fight back. Like, he's standing there. Maybe he can weave. Like, he can move his head around, but he won't attack you. He will not do any offensive maneuver against you. If you cracked him as hard as you could, do you think that you would lay him out? Do you? If the answer is yes, do you think that a professional fighter, even at the end of his career, is going to think that and want to gamble and just fucking press and go for that finish? That's really what you have to worry for. I think if we see Brian Kelleher come out in like some fucking peekaboo boxing style, like, you should get scared. We should just be fucking terrified. But fuck him. We're going with Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt Granted, these picks are not in order, but we're starting. Number 1, Cody Garbrandt, who is the favorite in his fight. Cody Durden, who is the dog, who is an underdog as of right now. Muslim Salikhov, who is an underdog as of right now. Marion Boudet, who is still the favorite as of right now. Lucas Almeida, who is the underdog right now. Alonzo Menifield, who is the underdog as well. Irene Aldana, who is the favorite. Casey O'Neill, favorite. Bryce Mitchell, favorite. This fight doesn't exist anymore, but Vincent Luke, favorite. Dog. He's a dog. He was a massive underdog, which I loved, actually. That was one of the reasons to pick him. Paddy Pimblett, favorite. Shavkat, favorite. Pantoja, favorite. And Leon Edwards, favorite. So, you know, we got a couple mix. Got a little nice mix in there. We got 9 favorites. 5 dogs. That's pretty tasty, you know. That's pretty tasty, I think. Not just picking all favorites, and I honestly had more dogs before. Excuse me, I had more dogs before. Like I had like Brian Kelleher in there, so one more. Would have been 8 and 6 favorites to dogs, but I swapped to Cody. I do think Cody takes that. I do think Cody takes that because Cody has the skills to take it. But anyways, I digress. Those are the picks. Please read the description for all of my action. All my action will be down there, clear and concise. This is the first video you're seeing of me, but this is not the first video I've done. The previous video will probably never ever be fucking released. Yeah, you know, so this is the first you are seeing of me, but it's not the first I'm seeing of you. I'm inside your walls.